Because imagine if people got their daily wages, they would be in a whole better position. But they hoard the money up and wait bi-weekly and all of that so they can, tax it more. But I got a quick one.
Come
Back, if you don't mind. This is in Leviticus 19 and 13. It says, "Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning." Right. So basically, you're supposed to get paid the same day. You know?
That's right. That's right.
That's one more thing where you say Esau is not. He's doing everything contrary to the words of the Heavenly Father.
That's it.
You know, he's always contrary to it. The Heavenly Father say pay by the day. Esau, according to, if you get paid by monthly, your ass got to down there wait 3 weeks or a month down there. Right. You know what I mean?
Especially if you're new at a company.
That's what I was just saying. You gotta put a week in the hole and all this shit. Like,
absolutely.
Like you gotta wait 3 weeks to get that first paycheck when you first start working in most places. You know?
Yeah, and most of the time when you gotta start working and everything, you already pretty much working out of a hole. You're already through trying to get back everything you had to pay. You worried about your bills. So now you gotta wait an extra week to an extra week and a half to get paid, depending on when you start around the last pay period. You know, it's all jacked up.
Especially with Israel, we barely get by as it is, so we need our money like sooner than later. You know, for some people, it's like they barely making it from paycheck to paycheck.
Solid.
You know,
solid, bro.
You know, but
yeah, it was an article that came out on that very thing that like I want to say like 48% of Americans are really just living paycheck to paycheck.
Right, a solid point, absolutely. And a lot of them are just ready to just quit and everything anyway. They're very discouraged. They feel very hopeless. And when you go into the work field, it's become hostile. You know I work at a place where it's a lot of people, and you know, I just see the change from the time period I first started to right now. Like, I don't want to just say it's just open hostility, you know, but you can hear the complaints on people, you know, how it's never anything working right for them, even though if it might be a so-called good day at work, they just want to find something to complain about. And it's a lot more of that taking place, you know, again, and now as we're talking about it, you have this squeeze that's even happening more with these laws and decrees that are being passed. Government, especially if you're a government employee, if you work for the government, you got to worry about your job not being at risk because they are already cutting out government employees, you know? But you got more on that, bro?
It says, "Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy."
That is poor and needy, and every single last one of us are poor and needy. All right, again, we said it earlier, they cut out the middle class. There's no middle class no more. It's pretty much lower class and higher class, and most of the lower class, if you're not poor, you're part of the working class, you know? And now you have certain jobs that are union-based, but a lot of these union-based jobs now pretty much are in cahoots with the company to the point where they won't even fight for you the way that they're supposed to anymore. You got a lot of foremen, union stewards and such that are being tied in with upper management and everything to the point where they can't exercise their union rights, or if there's a wrong being done, an open wrong being done, you know, they won't do their job to help rectify the situation. You know, and not a lot of brothers or people work in union jobs to understand that, but you know, if you're in the union, you understand that the union has become corrupt and turned into a shit show, especially after the last 10 years. You know, and again, it just goes all hand in hand with the fall of Babylon, you know? And again, it was mentioned earlier, going into the left and to the right, and how the right wing is now pushing a wicked agenda. Well, you know, I meant to make this point up earlier. You have a lot of people that voted for Trump and was hell-bent on making America great again, want to see this place get better. And now it's a lot worse than it was before. You know, and these right-wing Americans are now even more pissed off at Trump. Some of them are mad at Trump now than were with Biden. Trump's approval rating has went down exponentially.
Yep.
You know, and these are everything the scriptures talks about. And this elder right here said it before the cameras came on, that he got to be that cruel Lord.
oh yeah,
You know, I know we've been talking about that often. He's fulfilling the role of that cruel Lord you read about in Isaiah the 19th chapter. You know?
Yeah, because he's militarizing police now too.
Right.
You know, I believe there's a pretty much legislation that's trying to be put into effect for that very thing. You know, that goes into that cruel Lord.
That's it.
And even with the truckers too, you have to be required to speak English now too, which that could be a good thing. Obviously, if you're driving a truck in America, but you know, he just ramping it up on everybody.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly, and it's gonna cut out a lot of the transportation because a lot of these truckers don't speak English. Like you said, it's a light thing for them to get an English speaker. You know what I'm saying? But when you got a bilingual worker versus somebody that, you know, Issachar know how to get down, bro.
Yeah.
And you got the best workers that don't speak no English, and they be working like a motherfucker. You know, matter of fact, speaking of that, if I may, shit, when Trump first got in office in January, what took place? You had a lot of people that had, when he started, you know, pretty much shipping out those Issacharites, those Zebulonites, those different foreigners in the country. Well, the Americans are feeling even a squeeze on that because a lot of those foreigners were people that were gardening their water, you know what I'm saying, their yards. They were doing lawn care services. They had them employed for different reasons. And now since they've been kicked out of the country and tossed overseas, I said overseas, you know what I mean, pretty much tossed out of the land. Now you got a lot of Edomite Americans that are complaining about stuff not getting done. You know, so it's like the more they try to do things to make America great again, the further back they're going.
Right.
You know, and you can see that spirit just on the Edomites right now that is ultimately going to lead to their demise. You know?
Yeah, there's a humorous irony in that.
There's a humorous irony in that.
Like,
Absolutely.
You want Northern Kingdom up out of the land, but they're pretty much the backbone of a lot of the things in society, man.
That's right.
Yeah, you wouldn't have none of these gated communities and mansions in America without
Exactly.
Issachar. You wouldn't have none of that. All of these different structures. When you driving by, you see new business and buildings all over the place. That would not exist if it wasn't for the
Absolutely.
Northern Kingdom, specifically Issachar. You know?
That's right. That's right.
I had something.
So
Finish, please.
Come.
It's 24 and 14 in the book of Deuteronomy. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers.
So in general, bro, you ain't supposed to oppress a hired servant is what that scripture's saying. And this was commanded to us. This was in our law, being the Israelites, and the Lord gave us, when you read it in Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, the Lord gave us these laws, statutes, and commandments. That way we could be a light to the nations and they could see how the Lord deals and how he wants his ways to be pushed on the earth. You know, so when this was given unto us, this is a reflection on how the Lord wants things done. And again, the point was brought up earlier when you read it, in Psalms 50. Matter of fact, if I may, I'm just going to bring it out real quick, Paul. I know you got a precept. I'm going to bring it out real quick just because I quoted it earlier. But when you read it here in the book of Psalms, chapter 50, in verse 16, it says, Salakia, we got it right here. I'm going to start at verse 16. But unto the wicked, the Most High says, what hast thou to do to declare thy statutes? And according to the Bible, the wicked is the Edomites, are the Edomites. You know, so pretty much you have Edomites that are now trying to hold themselves accountable for what the Lord wants. You know, again, you know, when Trump got in office, you know, they tried to push that whole right-wing colonial Christianism that America used to have. That's part of making America great again. What they want to do is push that old Christianized way. And best believe when that way was pushed back when America was a so-called thriving society, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American were not a part of that bigger plan. You know? But it says, unto the wicked, what is thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in my mouth? All right, so since you wanted to, again, establish this country on biblical values, you're going to be judged according to that, which you're not going to be able to keep. All right, and again, as we're talking about the working class, the squeeze taking place, all these protests, again, yesterday, which was May Day, you had protests that was happening in front of certain work areas. One of the brothers was riding and posted a quick little video on it yesterday, you know? But if you go into the new, you know, YouTube, type in different articles and such, it went into the different protests, which are uproars of the people. All right, because again, the average daily American is oppressed severely right now, you know, under the hand of the Edomites in the own country that they're supposed to thrive in, so-called thrive in, you know? That's it on this precept.
Okay.
Malachi 3 and 5. I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against of those who oppress the hireling of his wages.
And when you go,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, when you go into this verse here, especially when you read the book of Malachi in general, that was a rebuking that was taking place against the wicked priesthood, who were pretty much the nobles of the so-called community of the Israelites at that time. So what the Lord is saying is pretty much he's not with what they were doing because that was the spirit that they was in. You know, they were snuffing the offerings and stuff. When it came to offer sacrifices, they would fan their hands. You know, but naturally just wanted to bring the root of what that verse is saying. But when you read this, it shows you how the Lord feels about oppression, you know, wicked oppression. And if he felt that way about our own people doing that, you can imagine how he feels about the wicked doing that. You know, which is why he allowed them to actually stack their sin unto heavens, as you read about it in Revelation the 18th chapter. You know, just wanted to add, you know, brought that out.
Hey, this says in recent months, U.S. companies have announced a significant surge in job cuts. Remember, we was just talking about
Absolutely.
Driven by factors like economy uncertainty, government-related cutting costs, and the adoption of new technologies.
Which is AI.
AI, yeah. It's gonna get rid of people.
Hey, UPS, for example, I heard they about to get rid of a lot of people. And
50,000.
only maybe like 2 years ago, I heard things like UPS was offering drivers like 170 grand a year. So that was like the job to have like a year and a half, 2 years ago. You know, but now, you know.
This is while job cuts decreased in April compared to March, they remain significantly higher than the previous year, marking the highest level for the month since 2020.
Wow, since 2020.
Since that COVID.
Damn.
Yeah, it's just that year.
Yeah, and they're talking about pretty much, you know, shelves being empty, just like it was in 2020 as well. All these, you know, all these things are getting ready to happen. Just what we experienced 5 years ago now, I almost said 4. What we experienced 5 years ago, we're getting ready to come back again. You know, I was talking to the elder brother Barack a few days ago out there in Cali. You know, shalom to you, brother, if you listen to But, you know, he sent me pretty much a few videos and such, touching up on the shipping docks and how a lot of these shipping docks are being more empty. And a lot of us, the everyday so-called Americans, aren't really seeing it right now. But if you work in trucking, all right, especially if you're on those ports, a lot of them are seeing that, especially those international goods that are supposed to be shipped. Remember, you got the whole tariff situation taking place where those percentages are being raised up. And a lot of countries are pretty much fighting back a little bit, you know? So we're getting ready to start really feeling this here. Within the next, they're talking about by June, actually. You're going to go to these stores and you're going to start seeing shelves a lot more empty. I know you had a precept you was holding, Shapo.
Just landbacking on the point of, you know, people of America pretty much languishing. You mentioned the working class, but even, you know, brother put in the chat yesterday how he went in to a, you know, pretty much a well-off neighborhood individual's house, and, you know, probably like a, you know, 5, 6, 7 bedroom house, who knows, but pretty much he needed a water heater and couldn't afford it, you know? So people, as it's been being made mention, the working class and the you know, lower / middle class, if you will, those that are making less than, let's say, 100K a year, well, those that are either making 500K a year plus or whatever, they're struggling too because they're living beyond their means a lot of times. You know,
house no killing them, and insurance and all that.
Yep. So a lot of people are just working just to pay bills, even the rich. You know, Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24:4 says, "The earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish," and that's what the Lord is bringing at the end of the day. You know, a lot of languishing. You know, a lot of you know, pride being brought down low. You know, as it mentions the you know, in Capernaum, though thou be exalted unto heaven, thou shalt be brought down to hell. You know, people's state of living is being decreased, and that's ultimately on purpose. You know, because this devil wants to bring in his enterprise, and that's the Lord's judgment at the end of the day.
Like it says in Ecclesiastes 12, the grinders cease. You know, because there ain't gonna be no work for Egypt, like it says in Isaiah 19. You know, because the elites, they're trying to monopolize everything, man. You know. There ain't gonna be no little small mom and pop restaurants and businesses. You know, everybody's gonna have to go to the same Amazon for everything.
Absolutely.
You know,
Hegelian dialect, pressure from beneath, pressure from above. You know, and again, ultimately, all that's tied into that great squeeze that's taking place, and it's gonna come to the point where these angry Americans, these vexed people, you know, remember they're vexed. These people got families. They can't afford to shut the water cup. They can't afford to take care of their families. You know, a lot of people are heavily being affected right now. You know, a lot of brothers are doing videos and responses on people sitting in their cars, venting and complaining about what's taking place, and eventually these people are gonna lose it.
that's right.
Boy, I got one in the refrigerator.
When you read it here, matter of fact, did you have some you was holding out?
I got one in the
Just
refrigerator.
to add, Gerald Salente, I think, said when people
I
have
got one
nothing
in the
to lose, they lose
refrigerator.
it.
Woo! Well, I must bring this out if I may.
Go ahead, yeah.
Because this is in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, because ultimately, this is what this is going to lead to. All right, and again, we see it right now. People are angry and vexed. You know, I see it in the workplace, so if I see it with people that have jobs and are employed, we can only imagine the people that are unemployed right now.
I don't see it.
Okay.
But this is Matthew, chapter 24, I believe it's in verse 12. Let's see.
I got it.
I'll put you one in there if you want.
Because of iniquity abound.
Yep, that's it.
Matthew 24:12. And because iniquity shall abound, and the love of many shall wax cold.
Now, two words that I want to focus on within that verse are the words iniquity and the word cold. And when you read that verse, because iniquity shall abound, when you go into that word iniquity in the Greek, that word is pronounced anomia. And when you break that word down, it's going into lawlessness. You know what I'm saying? Like pretty much being without, without laws, iniquity. Even when you look at it in the eyes of the Heavenly Father. You know, when Yahweh Shai says, get ye away from me, I don't know you, you workers of iniquity. Iniquity is the process of continual sin. You know what I'm saying? Not fulfilling the laws that are set before you. So when you look at that verse and it says, because iniquity shall abound, knowing that word iniquity means lawlessness, what that's saying is pretty much people aren't going to even abide and apply the laws that keep in order anymore. You know, hopefully that made sense how it was worded. You know, people aren't going to be worried about the order of anything anymore, the worse things get. And it was a point you brought up earlier. I believe it was you that brought it up. In Luke, the 21st chapter, it talks about much perplexity that's to come. You know, and that word perplexity goes into confusion. And that confusion is going to take place with lack of resources, lack of food, lack of goods. That's going to bring people to go crazy. Which is why back, according to that verse the elder just read, because iniquity or lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that second word I wanted to talk about is cold. And when you bring that word out in the Greek where it's translated from in that verse, it's psycho. All right? So it's saying because lawlessness is going to abound, people are going to go fucking crazy. You know? Yep. And they're already not governed by the Holy Spirit anyway. Right. You know, but when you take that meal away, it's a phrase. Brothers have said it all the time. I'm not good at quoting phrases, but pretty much once you take a meal away from a man or a man don't eat for a day, he loses it.
People are going to be like wild beasts.
That's
People are already in that beast-like state.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have any governance over their flesh. They just do whatever, consume whatever. But once the resources, are very limited, people are going to act like wild beasts. Like the beast in the wild, it's going to be survival of the fittest,
One of the curses.
Right.
Smite you with madness.
Right.
Absolutely. Solid point.
I got 15 chapter in 2nd Esdras, 16, it says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading of one another. They shall not regard the kings nor the princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power.
That's a beautiful precept.
Like you said, they're going to be, like you said, their mind, the lawlessness, they're going to go crazy. They're not going to give a shit what the government is talking about, because you got to remember, a lot of these cats are holding all kind of ARs. When, like you said, when shit get rough, you come on their land, it's going to be a shootout. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be some high level war right here in America. Man.
That's right.
Like that Purge, those Purge movies.
Right.
Just like that.
Yeah, lawlessness. It ain't gonna be no sheriff and all of that you can call on, and people ain't gonna give a damn if they try to enforce that anyway, because they're gonna be trying to protect their land. Let a sheriff or a police officer come to somebody's land that day, it's gonna be a war.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
shot down there.
Yep.
You gonna lay there.
Yep.
Cause they ain't gonna try to drag you and bury you.
Expecting no badge in that day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
You're a detective, nigga. You trying to investigate now?
It ain't gonna work. I got this word sedition pulled up in Google real quick. And the word sedition, and again, it's just a Google dictionary, but it says the conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority or state or monarch. All right? And you read that scripture in 2nd Ezra, how it said it should be sedition among men. So it's going to be a giant rebellion party pretty much. Right now, again, yesterday, International Workers' Day, which, that pretty much stemmed in the late 1800s when they started the union. People fighting against, wrongful work policies and such. But now, and ironically enough, it's on May Day, which is May 1st, which is a chronic sacrifice day that the elites actually use. It's a high-level witching Sabbath. All right, but you had uproars of the people yesterday. All right, especially in these main cities. Again, Dallas, they had a lot of businesses. If you was driving, looking around the corner, you see people outside with picket signs chanting, to impeach Trump, away with Trump. All right, so you see a spirit of rebellion being incited on these people right now, and things haven't even gotten really just bad yet. All right, now they're bad again as we're talking about. We know the times that we're in, but they haven't even got to the extreme yet, and that's why the Lord has His word within our mouths to bring this out, because we're out here warning the flock, letting you all know what's getting ready to take place, how bad things are actually going to get, and this is according to the Bible. Did you have anything?
I got more reading on the job cut.
Okay, kind of, for sure.
Because it says, this is like different reasons Economic uncertainty, which I read before in the article in market conditions, it says companies are citing economic instability, shifts in the customer spending, and trade challenges as reasons for layoffs.
Shifts in the customer spending. And when you work for a company and the customer of that company is not spending as much, then what is that ultimately going to lead to? Job cuts. You know, because the customer is pretty much feeding the business money, resources, that way they can grow and do what they got to do. But when the money's not coming in, they got to go through their different measures. And part of that, again, is cutting people off.
Yep.
And what that article is saying is it's happening a lot more. You know?
Yeah, because labor is the biggest expense to run a business.
That's right.
You know, you got to pay your employees.
That's
You know,
it.
Yeah.
so just strip the workforce down.
There you go.
It says technology adoption and reconstruction. Companies are also reducing positions due to reconstruction, the adoption of new technologies, and impact of AI.
And that's really gonna fuck a lot of things up as well, because we already see how flawed the technology actually is right now. All right, and if one of them brothers that work for companies that actually, you know, have a lot of so-called technology there, you see how there's constant issues within that shit at the workplace, and it slows the whole workforce down whenever there's an error or whenever there's an issue. You know, so the more they try to say we're gonna apply more of these, technological advances, you know, for lack of better words, they're gonna truly see that that's gonna be more to their detriment. You know, you're cutting employees off. You got more so robots, AI working those positions, and that stuff's flawed. You know, and don't let it be any type of cyber attack or any type of issue. Hell, you see what's taking place over there in Portugal, Spain, and parts of France right now.
Yeah.
Parts of Barcelona, power outages. You know, and a lot of these companies, most of these companies, I can't even say a lot, most of these companies use the internet. They use all of this. So when you cut all that stuff off, everything goes down the drain. You know? You got it.
It says tariffs. Tariffs, especially those linked to President Trump's policies, have also contributed to job cuts, particularly in the transportation and logistics industries.
Damn.
So
One
you're
of
talking
the
about them
most chronic,
truck drivers,
yeah, one of the most chronic industries to work for.
Because you gotta move goods. Goods gotta move.
They got
Right.
to.
If they don't move, then everything is over.
Everybody's
That's right.
fucked up.
It's a standstill.
Yup.
Yeah, they said that trucking is like gonna face like a lot of issues.
Right.
You know, of course, you know, due to the tariffs and so forth, and pretty much just a pissing contest really at this point with these other nations that Trump just put the smackdown on.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And the main people again that are feeling the effects of all this is the working class.
That's right.
You know, the elites, the rich, the wealthy. They're not really. Everybody's being affected, of course.
Yeah.
But they're not more affected as the working class, because the working class are pretty much the pawns in this whole thing taking place.
Yeah.
The job cuts, working class getting kicked off there.
Yeah.
They practicing more AI, working class. Who are opening AI jobs? Working class. They're gonna go and work for those different companies and see how much of a shit show that is. It's no rest for a regular employee right now, for labor.
Yeah.
And again, you have mostly Israelites, all right, people in general, but a lot of these people that occupy these regular working class jobs are more than likely Israelites, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. And a lot of these jobs, again, we're talking about the cuts that's taking place. What's that's going to do with a lot of people that are left over that are working is a more of a burdensome workload that they're going to have to carry, which is going to cause them to go fucking crazy. You got any precepts, points?
I have
Go ahead.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I was going to say, because isn't that exactly what happened in 2020 as well? The rich got richer and the poor got poor.
Yeah.
We're about to see another stage of that as well.
That's
The
right.
rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poor. There's being a division made economically between the classes, and it's all on purpose, man.
That's right. That's right.
They're literally telling you what's going to happen, what's going to take place. The stage is already set,
That's right.
2nd Esdras 6 and 22.
That's the spirit.
It says
We start at 18?
So like what chapter again?
2nd Esdras 6.
6 to what?
2nd Esdras 6 and 18, it says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth.
And the reason why I wanted to start it right there, because that verse is telling you, when all these things start happening, everything we're seeing right now is because the Lord is drawing nigh on the earth.
That's right.
When the Lord draws nigh, things happen, things get shaken up. You know, you have the account back in the wilderness when the Lord came down from Sinai and things got shaken up. You know, and it was fear and dread that was upon the Israelites around that time, where now we're here in the last days, in the latter end, where the Spirit of the Lord is drawn out. And it starts with His word being brought out, His messengers preaching. You know, the scriptures say it when you read it in 2 Thessalonians, 2nd chapter. It talks about how the wicked will be consumed by the spirit of his mouth first. And that's to transpire before they're consumed with the brightness of His coming. You know, so as the spirit's getting closer to the earth, it's a lot more uproars of the people.
Yeah.
It's a lot more division. Hell, when you go into that word uproars in the scriptures, it's broken down into protests. So all of these are signs and tokens to show that the Lord's Spirit is getting closer to the earth.
That's right.
You know?
And one of my precepts to that is 5:56 in the previous chapter. And it's saying if we show him favor, give us favor if we basically deserve it.
Oh,
Because we're gonna need it. You know what I'm saying?
that's right.
We're gonna need a heavy favor from the Lord. Because when you start visiting the earth, bro, it ain't gonna be no joke.
That's right.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying? We see just simple cats having car wrecks. You pass by and the body laying down. You know, it'd be like, damn, that's horrible. But and the Lord got more.
Yeah.
He got more shit in store for us punishment, bro.
Yeah. You got a lot of people losing their comforts. Look at the eviction rate. A lot of women being evicted.
Absolutely.
Now they was labeled a lot of women. They had the analytics out. They're outpacing men in home ownership, but now they're becoming the biggest evicted tenants.
Yeah.
You know, the Lord flips things quickly.
That's a solid point. So, Lockie, bro, I know you're going to bring that out, but it's a point that I want to add to that really quick, too, because you brought up a great point going into a lot of the women
Yeah.
and how they're the main ones being evicted. Well, you have a lot of them that are also boasting in the fact that they're the highest ones to they graduate from college at the highest rate.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and now Trump is passing these policies and such
Yeah.
where, hey, you went to college and owed them student loans and ain't been paying them, you don't have to pay that shit.
Yeah.
So the main ones that are going to be affected as well are going to be women.
Yeah.
Who are going to need that type of stability in them times to come, and they're not getting it because of their pride.
Yep.
Isaiah 4:1 is kind of
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
right around the corner.
that step down.
That's
What those degrees they like to brag about.
Man.
Because degree means to step down.
Yeah,
to
down.
digress really.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Get your education though.
Yeah, the word D in Latin is down,
Down.
pretty much, and the word grasses means back.
Back there.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a step back when you go into the word degree and you break that word down.
That's right.
Solid
Damn,
points.
man, that's beautiful.
You know?
Continuing on here in 2nd Ezra 6, and I'll read 18 again. It says, "And it said, Behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled." And that's ultimately what's taking place. We're starting to see that paradigm shift. Deuteronomy the 30th chapter, where the Lord is now taking the curses off of us, which they're still on us. They're going to be on us until the curses are removed when we be fully changed.
Right.
But we're starting to see these curses also be put upon our enemies, man.
That's right. There's a shameful spewing of the glory of the wicked, like it says in Habakkuk. Now charges are brought up on Esau Edom. Like that word, what's that word you just read?
Inquisition.
Inquisition. It means to basically like cross-examine. To scrutinize.
Absolutely.
The man of sin is being revealed.
Yeah.
All right.
Beautiful. You brought up that word, shameful spewing. When you bring that word out, I forgot the exact word in the Hebrew for spewing, but when you go into the definition, when you actually look at in the lexicon, or the Hebrew, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You look in the blue letter, you type that word in. One of the definitions is called ignominy. And when you break that word ignominy down, it actually means to pretty much like shameful spewing, but it means to be put down and revealed in front of the whole congregation, in front of everybody. Like when you read it in Romans, the 1st chapter, the Apostle Paul is going into, man with man, all of that reprobate mind. You know what I'm saying? I forgot the exact word that's used within that. But pretty much it's the same thing. It means a public displaying of your shame being revealed before the masses.
Inquisition.
That's right.
Well, that's the word.
Like,
That's what you
Yeah.
just read.
Hey, I got that for you.
The
Sure.
definition
Oh.
is a deep search inquiry, a ruthless official investigation of an individual.
There you go. A ruthless investigation.
Yeah, because Esau, he's been a vagabond and a fugitive
Right.
from justice.
That's
so
right.
now everybody, even his own tongue is falling upon him, like the scripture says, you know. And they can't handle it. That's why he just gonna just come with all of these draconian measures and just shut everything down. Have everybody under his thumb through, we already know, you know what, in Revelation 13 and 16, ultimately.
That's right.
You know?
That's the only way, because he's already given people too much liberty.
Yep.
They own their own guns, like you mentioned, Zaquan. They own their own assault rifles. They own their own. You got Jake that owns sniper rifles and grenades and shit like that, bro.
Solid.
Yeah.
So they, you know, the slogans you'll see on the stickers on the back of trucks, come and take it with a assault rifle. You know, the average American, especially here in Texas, you know, in other states as well, but they're ready to go. So it's gonna be the devil coming down with great wrath.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I seen a Dodge Ram, one of them big pickups, and then they switched the words around and said war on the tailgate. You know, on a new Ram, it say Ram in the back.
It said war in the back.
They switched the letters, but it's kind of dope though. If you just switch the letters around, it turned to war on the new Ram. I was like, damn, but it was one of them. You could tell one of them good old Americans. You know, gun-toting Americans. We had that big truck with the big tires.
Yeah, they ready.
Yeah, they ready.
They ready, and a lot of them stacked up. We were about to say stocked up on those bullets and guns and such, especially around the time of 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
You know, when they when the shelves was empty then.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people are pretty much ready right now.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it comes to these Edomites, the ones that the elders talking about right now, those gun-toting Edomites.
Yeah.
They know how to use them motherfuckers too.
Yeah.
And they,
you know,
Kids know how to use them.
Yeah, especially down here in Texas, man. Like what they push down here in the Lone Star State, they know how to use them motherfuckers, man. Their mindset is, I'm ready for somebody, especially especially a nigga, especially a Mexican.
yeah,
They ready.
Yep. That was E's blessing. That's one of his blessings.
Oh, right. That's right.
I remember many years ago. Hell, I go back as far as 13 years ago, bro. When I was, you know, in the construction field, you know how you have, you know, your mom's fine china cabinet coming up, bro. E be having those chests of guns, bro, rifles, yeah. And bro, this is 13 years ago. Me and that Edomite probably about the same age now, bro. But they been ready, and he from this, you know, he's from Texas, Fort Worth to be exact. So just like, you know, the priests are going into and the elders, bro, they ready. The Lord is putting that spirit on them, man. So the Lord is moving things along very fast too, man. You know.
That's right.
I did. Also, like I had ignominy. If you.
Oh yeah, let's pull that word out. We can get back to that part afterwards.
And I got you. And of course, the AI overview had popped up, but it says in the Bible, ignominy refers to public shame, which the elder just made mention of. Yep. Disgrace or humiliation.
There you go.
It can describe the suffering of being condemned and scorned, or the experience of enduring a humiliating situation. The term is often associated with the idea of being treated with disrespect or dishonor.
And for a rich man, one of their biggest fears or humiliation is pretty much them losing out their money.
Yep.
You know, all their goods.
Yep.
You know, especially when you have people that rely on them or around there to bear witness to it.
Yep.
You know, you read it in Isaiah the 14th chapter where it talks about how they're falling from heaven, O Lucifer.
Yeah.
You know, it talks about, you know, how did it shake the heavens.
That's right.
The worms are under thee and the worms are over thee. But it also goes into the nations that are pretty much saying, how art thou become like us and we?
That's right.
You know, thou didst shake the nations.
That's
you know,
right.
so this shameful spewing is taking place just on Edomite supremacy, what's taking place, you know, everything that we're seeing right now.
That's right.
You know, America in their highest, because they're pretty much in their height right now.
Yeah.
Edomite supremacy is at its height right now, but at the same time, the nations are looking at this shit like, ew, what the fuck going on?
It's collapsing.
Yeah, it's collapsing.
Like Job said, how oft the candle of the wicked is being put out.
God, that's right.
So their light is being dim, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord gonna ultimately just put it all the way out.
That's right. That's right, bro.
Continuing back here in 2nd Ezra 6 and verse 19, verse 20. I'll read 19 again. It says, and will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and unrighteousness, right? It says, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished.
As we just said, the world shall begin to vanish away. And it's at its height right now.
Yeah.
You know, technologically, it's at its height. All right. When it comes to the amount of souls that the earth has compiled over time. When I say how many people live on the earth right now, it's at its height.
Yeah.
There's more people that occupy the earth now, more now than ever.
Yeah.
You know, everything's at its height right now.
Yeah.
You know, the pride of the Edomite is at its height. What is that written at? In Revelation, the 18th chapter, it talks about the sins of Babylon has reached all the way into the heavens, and that's right before Babylon fell. So everything's at its height.
That's right.
You know?
Yep. And it also in Revelation 17 letting you know the nation's hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
the nation's hot with this nigga, bro. The whore, the great whore.
Yeah, straight up, bro.
It says, then will I show these tokens. The book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together.
And what does that mean? The understanding is being brought out. You know, in the midst of all these events happening, these prophecies that were taking place, the books would be open. The understanding will be brought out. You know? And it's being brought out. Obviously, starting with the apostles and the elders, and the internet's being used for that. You know, it's even being used in the heavens. You know, the frequencies being brought out there and spread throughout the earth.
That's how we know we're at the end, like it says in Matthew 24. When this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached throughout the world, then shall the end come.
That's right. That's
All
right.
So we're in the end game.
Yeah, and that don't physically mean you got to go to places like Kenya and teach Hamites the word, man.
Right.
You know, for the guys in IUIC talking about this says to all the earth. No, it's taking place through this word being broadcasted throughout the earth.
That's right.
You know, and anything the Lord did his part and brought us to Babylon to preach.
Yeah.
You know, this is the last end that the word needed to be preached at, for real, for real. Deuteronomy 30 talked about that it would be stretched even to the uttermost parts of heaven. Thence will I gather thee, and thence will I fetch thee. You know, just as a little footnote with that. You know? You got it, bro.
God, it says, verse 20 again, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I show these tokens, the signs, right? It says, the book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together. That also makes me think of Daniel, the 12th chapter, where he said, go thy way, Daniel, seal the words, and then until the latter days, and then many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. You know, and that's where we at.
So like it, and when you read it in the revised, the new revised version, it's basically our humiliation as well. The whole nation, you know, the whole nation. We had to get that ass beat, you know, for the whole world to see. But now, you know, now it's turning back on Esau.
Oh yeah.
You know, so now they're backs against the wall.
That's
and
right,
now
solid point.
now they're lashing out like, nah, nigga, y'all gotta get it too.
That's it.
We got our ass whooped, you gotta get yours too.
That's a solid point, bro, because, you know, as you experience, you know, pretty much being overworked sometimes at the workplace or things that might not feel fair, or when you're dealing with that oppression, we ultimately know the Lord is doing that pretty much that way the wicked can be judged for what they do.
That's right.
But also, too, that way we're long suffering.
That's right.
Because, you know, we went off. We bear the indignation of the Lord, so it's a two-edged sword at the end of the day.
Yep.
We're being tried at the same time. They're fulfilling their tag.
Yep.
You know?
That's right.
It's a solid point you brought out, you know?
Call on you.
And that's why they're trying to play victim as well. You know, which the track meet Jake that shot down old boy.
Carmelo Anthony. Austin Metcalf.
Yeah, they trying to play victim now too. You know, talk about white oppression. You know, we're the ones being oppressed now and stuff like that. Like, nah, man, that shit dead.
And here it is. You got videos popping up of the Jays. They being hella aggressive, but they picking and choosing on who they could do that to.
Right.
You know, those Jakes they been pushing over in the wheelchair. You know, the Jays. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But here it is. Y'all niggas got a whole league. If anybody says anything, that person is canceled or condemned and deemed as evil.
That's right.
The audacity.
You got Trump back in there too.
Yeah.
Talk about anti Shem rhetoric and pretty much those different talking points that come out.
Yeah.
That those have to go.
Yeah.
Right,
That's right.
But I'll continue back on here in 2 Ezra 6 and verse 21. It says, and the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. The woman with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live and be raised up.
And ultimately what that's going into is, you know, the times that we're in right now, technology was going to get so advanced, even when it came to childbirth, you know, they would have the technology for them to be brought out early and such. You know what I'm saying? That's really ultimately what that part is going into. You know, you got it.
Okay.
You know, premature births, you know, incubators, and that technology pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, because back in the ancient world, you know, that was pretty much something that didn't happen as often.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
you got it.
And it wasn't didn't have the technological means like you mentioned. They didn't have the technological means back then to be able to sustain a child that came out that early.
Yeah.
And you think about it, because now since we have the technology for that to be able to take place, now you have more spirits and souls that are being put into the earth. You know what I'm saying? Within that technology.
Yeah.
You know?
Because that's an excellent point, brother. Because you got what? You got sperm banks, sperm donors, IVF that are successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. You got it.
Verse 22, and this was the point. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown.
Which is the point of the verse. You know, suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The grocery stores. You know what I'm saying? Clothing stores. You know, your jobs. The scripture says, when you read it in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, to return to the Creator in the days of thy youth before the evil day. And it also talks about the grinding ceasing in that day before the grinders cease.
I was going to get that
You know?
too.
So that's going into labor as well.
Yep.
You know, so what that's saying is, you know, places that are usually used for regular labor, stuff that are used to, is not going to be done what is used. You know, you're not going to see what you're used to anymore. You're not going to be comfortable. Your daily necessities, your dainties, you're not going to be able to experience that and receive the benefits from that no more.
That's right.
You know, and it's going to become what? More dog eat dog in that time. Because now motherfuckers going to have to eat. And they're going to do whatever they got to do beyond all means to eat.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for my family.
Yep.
That's you're gonna hear a lot of those.
We worry about the family like that either.
Even that.
That's coming to the earth too. We go
That's
in
right. Solid,
here and
solid.
there like cannibalism. You know, that's the scriptures. All that's in the
So
scriptures.
you got a reason to leave that bitch.
Yeah.
Leave that.
And they say they got like notable like a lot of job cuts, man, and reductions in tech, retail, and government. So like the priest is going into, bro, this is all the will of Yahweh Bashim Shah as well, man. First and foremost.
Yeah, the thrill is gone.
Yeah.
Even the El Yashawam posted up, like in Maryland, I think they shut down Six Flags.
Yeah.
So no thrills, man.
Yeah.
Man.
Okay, I thought that was down here.
Nah,
I kind of did
yeah,
at first too,
yeah,
but I was
it
like,
Maryland.
yo, that's
It's like, damn.
Six
When you read the article, it says, it says Maryland.
Okay.
Yo, it says
Six
Maryland.
Flags over Texas shut down. It's all done.
Yeah.
It's the first one.
Yo,
Oh, it is the
This
first one?
This
I
one
didn't know
started at Six Flags, though.
yo, it
When we
started
were
here.
little kids, Six Flags was Texas.
I had no idea. And it just branched out.
It just branched out and
Yeah.
shit. So
Yeah.
this one we're over here shut down.
That's very symbolic though, because that's an amusement
Yeah,
park.
that's what I'm saying. That the thrill is gone.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a staple, bro. That's like that, you know, the Six Flags over Texas.
Man.
Yeah, I was almost born there.
Oh,
Yeah, I
shit.
see.
Yeah, my mom's
Six
water
Flags.
broke there.
You know your class senior trip?
The water
We
goes
took
down.
us to Six Flags, I remember.
Look, the baby come out, the car come back down, the baby get caught. You got something, bro?
It was a little more on that. I'll finish off the verse. 2 Ezra 6:22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. So-
Damn,
so-
full stuff. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, if full. I was gonna make that point you was probably about to make. It's gonna, go from this excess to just, you ain't gonna have the daintiness that you had all this time. We ain't gonna be able to go and it's just this excess, and we could just like it's 12 things on the shelf. We might grab like 2 or 3 of them, and kind of stock up and last us a month or whatever. Like, no, it's gonna be like you're gonna go and it's gonna be like 2020, nothing there. People stabbing each other back in 2020 over toilet tissue. You're gonna see a lot of that same stuff happening in the coming months.
That's a solid point. What you gonna bring up? Point?
Precept. I ain't not with no point. You got your point.
Just a quick one, real quick. Earlier, this brother brought up Malachi the 3rd chapter and going into how the Lord is going to come against the false swears and all of that. And when you read it in that same chapter, it goes into why the Lord was going to do that to us, and He uses tithes and offerings as an example. And it says, "What a man steal from God." When you read that same chapter, and when you continue to read it, it goes into how the Lord would even open up the windows of heaven and open up, you know what I'm saying, for pretty much those that give what's in your storehouse. So when you look at Babylon now, since this place was a country that was so-called based on biblical values and principles, what the Lord is doing is getting ready to visit. That's why the scripture is also saying, Ezekiel 14, it says, because the land hath trespassed or violated grievously against the Lord, it talks about the 4 sore judgments that come into the land. And one of those judgments is breaking the staff of bread, and it goes into other ones. But the point is, you brought out going into how the Lord would even empty the full storehouses. And the reasons why the Lord does that in past is because of the lack of care and attention toward the Heavenly Father and His ways. And when you look at Babylon and how it's transgressed grievously against the Lord, it makes all the much more sense why the Lord is going to do it in that way. You know what I'm saying? If that made sense. You know?
Then, you know, we was just reading where it was talking about transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Storehouses, that deals with logistics. When you
Yeah.
get a storehouse, that's
Absolutely.
logistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shipping containers too.
Yeah, that's all
Shipping
logistics.
containers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when that shit go out, like you said, the storehouses. go
Yeah,
out.
and that's like the trucking and the transportation is a very integral part of the society, bro. Once that stops, bro, you know what I'm saying? Because you got all these like trades and stuff. Like corn is essential, bro.
That's right.
You know, all like for oil and so forth, bro. It's
Gasoline.
gasoline. It's so much that goes into it, bro. Once that trucking industry and transportation is affected, bro, people about to really lose their shit, man.
It's just gonna tighten the squeeze because
Yeah.
now you don't have to rely on like ships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is gonna make the price go up.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those ships are very empty.
Mhm.
You know, even though there's not as many ships on these different ports, but even the ones that are there aren't as full as they usually are.
Hey, can I get this?
Nah,
The
like,
elder
yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Yala had posted this on the chat.
Shalom,
Shalom,
shalom.
shalom. But it says West Coast ports empty. It says West Coast ports in the United States are experiencing a significant decrease in shipping activity, with many ports reporting a dramatic reduction in the number of ships and containers. For instance, the port of Seattle is currently empty, with only one ship present and no container.
You see, it's empty.
Ooh.
One ship present. That's an abnormal thing when it comes to a shipping port.
That's
You
for the
know,
whole West Coast.
that's for the whole West
Seattle
Coast.
is at the Northwest, so they probably supply that whole West Coast.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Because when we went out there, remember me and Bun went out there. We went to Yashawamba. I think we went.
Yeah, I think he went out there with all
We
y'all.
went to Oakland to visit his mom. But you know, he
Okay.
met us there. But we went and did a lesson, bro. That you could see so many ships. We was on this hill.
I remember.
In the water, there was like a lot of ships, man. It was like 20 of them. Just
Yeah.
Now, like I said, ain't but one. I can imagine.
One ship.
I looked now, bro. One ship.
That's crazy.
Which means that when you go to the grocery store and you get your food, it's pretty much back stock. You know, everything that you see right now is pretty much, you know, the emergency supply. You know? And even again, you know, we used the example earlier, 4 or 5 years ago, when the pandemic first hit. The first thing that was gone was that bread. Those regular goods like that, you know? So when that stuff starts to pretty much cease, that's how you know it's finna get real. The
Yeah.
fact that there's barely any ships on these ports for these trucks, that's a violation, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And the everyday American is already mad and upset and complaining. You know, that a lot of them are losing their jobs. So when they can't go to the grocery store and eat neither, oh man, you can imagine what's getting ready to come afterwards. And again, I can't remember who posted the article on the chat, but it was a few days ago. They're talking about by June, not right, expect to see shelves empty. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, y'all remember brother sent that, yeah.
Yeah. By June, which is next month. We in the beginning of May right
Yeah.
now. You know, so it's gonna get bad out here. So now you have the risk of shelves being empty on top of Americans that are losing their jobs, already upset and complaining. You know, motherfuckers on child support right now, ready to hurt their baby mama. Motherfuckers are irritable and vexed right now.
Yeah. The long garnishments getting set up.
Getting set up. You know, Hegelian dialect. You know, pressure from beneath, pressure from above.
Yeah.
And the working class are the main ones that's getting ready to feel that pressure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, people,
Got-
because people, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nah,
Squad.
go ahead and say.
No, well, yeah, people, you know, really, you know, in strong delusions as well, because they know their situation ain't gonna get better either.
Right.
Even pertaining to my job, you know, it's like, bro, you know, y'all can't have, you know, your vehicles parked here this long, but you know, got to be empathetic, right? Jake, like, yeah, you know, so and so gonna come by and fix a week. I'm like, bro, it's going on 3 months, bro. You ain't got the bread, bro. It's a lot of people just pushing it to the fine line, bro.
Right.
There's so many people pushing it to the fine line. You know you ain't got no rent, bro. You through. This place and these people are through, man.
Everything's on life support right
Yeah,
now.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
You know, existence as we see right now is on life support.
yeah.
You know, you read it in what Psalms chapter 82 verse 5, it talks about how all the foundations are even out of course.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a storehouse is a foundation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's where you get your goods from.
Mhm.
You know, so that's even become out of course right now. So it's getting ready to be crazy out here soon, man. If you don't got the spirit on you, you finna be taken within this whole shaking that's happening.
That's
People
You know?
making pivotal decisions at the gas pump, like Cat Williams said.
Yeah,
like
bro.
he get gas, like thinking, have I ate today?
Yeah.
Real talk, though.
Yeah.
Real talk. Yeah, those are the decisions.
You gotta
people
make a
are
choice.
making.
Do I get some gas or do I get something to eat? You know what I'm saying?
What about, can I go to work today or do my babies gotta eat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Like
crazy.
people having to make pivotal decisions.
That's right.
But I have a precept, Salaki. This is 2nd Ezra 16 and 21. It says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth. Sword, famine, and great confusion. So even if things, certain goods on Amazon, you can go to Temu,
Yeah.
you can go to Klarna, like people are into the whole buy, pay now, or buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
You know, it seems good right now.
Yeah.
But with the tariffs and then combined with the they putting hell on the truckers, things in the earth is gonna start being dramatically higher just for basic necessities.
Yeah. We was,
You know?
we was even talking about the Cash App thing, remember?
Yeah.
You can borrow like up to $200 from Cash App now.
Yeah, you
Because everybody know the squeeze is here. They
Yup.
feeling it.
That's right. And I was quoted earlier, Ecclesiastes 12, return to the Creator in the days of thy youth before the evil
can.
days.
It's coming.
Before the victual, everything looked good. You can go to the store, get your food, you can eat. You know, especially, Trump in office. Now America gonna be great again.
Yeah.
That's what everybody was thinking.
Yeah.
But now it's coming to the point where it's not what they thought. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you remember even too, if I may, back when Trump was in office before, when the pandemic first hit, you remember especially here in Texas, gas got a little low for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was at like $1.30, close to that. Maybe I'm a little off, but it got very low.
Yeah, one time.
I remember seeing $1.75 at one of these motherfuckers.
Damn.
But it was low as hell, pretty much.
Good on
And people were even like making remarks. People that brothers from the States, they like, damn, the gas is low over there where y'all are at right now.
Yeah.
But again, just using it as an example, stuff was even low at that time.
Yeah.
So they thought themselves to be even in good case, knowing that even that being a pivotal time when things are bad, you can still go and get your necessities to a degree.
Yeah.
So it's not to be like that no more.
Mm-hmm.
It's what the scriptures are saying. It's what that verse that was said when he read. It's not going to be like that no more. Everything that you're used to, your comforts are going to be stripped away and going to be gone.
That's right.
That's what that verse is saying.
Your quality of life is going to diminish day
Right.
by day, pretty much. If you're not rich, if you're not super rich, pretty much.
That's right.
That's right.
You said buy now, pay later. Esau always ran that game.
Yeah.
They ran that when the slaves, when they came out of slavery or whatever, remember they was sharecroppers? They would go to the store and they'd be like, look, you can get it now and you work it off.
Yup.
That's all a part of that, what we were talking about. You got to pay them in that day.
Yup.
They save, they make you work and save your checks 2 weeks. That's that same fucking game they did with the slaves back then. You can have it now and work it out, then your ass in the field working. You done worked out more than what that shit
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
was worth, you know what I'm saying?
And it ain't even serving the purpose that you need in the present
Yeah.
now. It's like, I already
Yeah.
used it for that time, and I'm still working and paying.
I done wiped my ass already.
Yeah, exactly. Shit.
Like if a person
They
book a
said both of
vacation
these.
on one of those buy now pay laters, like you didn't enjoy the vacation, but 6 months later, that decision, you still going through it, paying on that.
Nah,
You forgot you got the auto pay.
You forgot you went on that vacation. God damn
Damn,
it.
son.
It's the whole credit card scam.
Yeah, that's nasty work.
Get it now, pay later.
But I'll continue on in this verse, verse
Come on,
22,
come on.
2 Ezra 16 and 22. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. And what does it say? I think in Lamentations, it's better to perish by the sword than by the famine. Because that's a slow, torturous, slow burn process of death.
That's right.
It says, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy.
Yeah, you just kill in war.
That's right.
Whether it be that war among the silver or silver.
It's gonna be civil.
Yeah, civil.
Class,
Oh, yeah.
civil.
Yeah, because that's coming.
Again, yeah, that's right. And the scriptures say it, if I may, really, I got a quick one I've been holding for a while. But this is Job 20 and 22, just jump straight to it. But it says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. But the point is right here where it says, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And when you go into this verse, that word wicked, it's talking about the working class. When you break that word wicked down in Job chapter 20, verse 22, because when you read Job chapter 20, that already is a judgment to the wicked. The wicked elites, just not even just the elites, but the rich. It's a judgment against the rich when you read this. But in verse 22, it wouldn't make sense for it to say the wicked shall consume the wicked. You know, when you go into this word wicked right here in Job chapter 20 and 22, again, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. That word wicked is labor, the laborers. You know, those that are employees. You know, so that's what's getting ready to take place. That's why also here in James chapter 5, real quick, in verse 2, it says, your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were a fire. Ye have reaped treasures together for the last days, which is going into these elites, these people that are owners of these corporations.
That's right.
That's what that's talking about right now in these times. And the point right here,
again, like you said, the corporations, the weight of misery when it gets so bad, that's what's gonna crush your ass.
Right.
They're gonna be miserable as hell. Even them damn elites.
Yeah.
You know, misery gonna kill your ass.
Well, look how miserable they was when they were losing all that money years ago. When billionaires was losing money, now they got reduced to 500 million. These niggas would jump from the building.
right?
Yeah.
Praise, right.
Like, damn.
You still got 500 million.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
got 5,000 or negative 5,000, baby. Hey,
You know what I'm saying?
it's the work.
Verse 4 says, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which kept you back by fraud, crieth. And the cries of them which have reaped, and this is going into us, namely. You know what I'm saying? This ain't talking about the heathen, of course, but they are feeling the effects too. But like, you know, Daniel 7:25 comes to mind, where it says they shall think to change times and laws and shall even wear out the saints of the Most High. Because again, when you look at the workforce and the laborers, that's namely the Israelites here that are doing this stuff. And it's namely the Israelites' labor, especially, you know, when you look at the foundation of America, it was namely off the backs of the Israelites. You know, so when you look at this right now, how the Israelites make up the majority of the workforce here, it's crying out. You know, we're crying out. You know, and even amongst them, you have the elect. Lord will aware of that number, of course, but brothers that are serving the Lord that are amongst that crying out. And the Lord ain't listening to them, but the Lord is listening to us.
Yep.
Because we the one gather the crop.
That's it.
So you look at it like a husband. We gather the crops. So the ones who cry out are the ones who gather the crops.
And it says, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, which that word Sabaoth ultimately goes into armies, or the Lord of hosts.
Yep.
You know, so the Lord is going to come back with vengeance and war. And how's he going to do that? And there's different steps. As we kind of quoted earlier a little bit, the Lord has different sword judgments that he sends upon a land. You know, but part of that is going to be the actual workforce, those that are laborers that are going to actually come and fight against them. You know, like you may have mentioned earlier a little bit ago, it's going to be pretty much wars on the streets. You know, not necessarily race wars, but more so class wars. You know, wars of the laborers coming against those that got money. You know, Yahweh Shai said that when the kingdom is divided, it's not going to stand. You know, so this is the fruits of a divided kingdom. You know, fighting and warring against each other, which is the Lord's will. You know, that was it. I just wanted to bring those out real quick and holding that for a minute.
Oh, okay, come on. This is Isaiah. I don't know if it came out already. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1.
That's the spirit, you know.
We spoke on it.
The burden of Egypt, behold, Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it.
And that's that inquisition.
That's right.
That it was read earlier in 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter. The Lord is making inquisition that's on the earth. And now things are being moved on the earth as the Lord is making that inquisition.
That's right.
You know, what comes to mind is, you know, even when the spirit of the, you know, when the angels came to the earth shook. When Yahweh Shai rose from the dead, when the angel came.
That's right.
You know, but, you know, things are shaking. Even in 2nd Ezra 6, when you read it earlier within the chapter, Paul brought it out earlier, but when you read it earlier, it goes into how the Lord is commanding Ezra to stand still and stand firm.
Yeah.
As that great motion, a great shaking is taking place. You know, so you got the men of the Lord, the servants that are going to be stable in this time that's to come, but everything else and everybody else is going to be shaken in this grand shaking that's getting ready to happen.
That's right.
You know, you got it.
That's right. Verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor.
That's the Lord right there, stirring up civil war.
That's
right.
That's it right there.
That's right.
Civil war.
City against city, and kingdom against kingdom.
And that's also happening as well around the world.
That's right.
You know, shoot, it's taking place right now over there in Israel. You still get Israel, Palestine, All that's still taking place. Russia, Ukraine, that's still going on.
Yeah,
On top of many more things happening.
that's right.
You know, World War III is being mustered up right now.
Man,
Yeah, it's gonna be a struggle for power.
yeah,
Big struggle
Mhm.
for power, bro.
That's
that's
right.
right.
That's right. The tariffs,
Oh, man.
these are affecting the different countries. Hell, the European Union,
Yeah.
they ain't feeling the horror right now, bro.
Yeah.
The beast is not feeling the horror right now, pertaining to Revelation, the 17th chapter. There's been so many articles that brothers have been sending out, and we've been seeing the past few weeks, past month and a half, 2 months, going into the European Union, certain nations of the European Union severing themselves from America,
Yep.
from the war. And that's ultimately, as we know, according to prophecy, is going to lead to all-out war.
That's right.
You know, so in the midst of the civil wars that are getting ready to be brought out within this country, it's also going to be just war in general.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. Verse 3, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards.
So the Lord basically gonna, every plan Esau has, he's basically gonna frustrate it.
Yeah.
Their whole morale will be knocked down.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? And that's what, like you say, then he gonna go crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like look at Planet of the Apes, motherfucker went crazy. He hit the button.
right?
That's right. The dude shot. What are you doing? You know, he lost it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're gonna trust in their
That
technology.
technology.
You know, their idols. That's why it says they shall lean to their idols and such like that. AI is very prominent right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they're trusting in this shit right now, man. You know, it's literally became an idol. When you look at AI videos and shit now, it's hard to tell if it's real or if it's not.
Yeah.
You know.
That's they you see how they download so much info into these different AI. That's like their soothsayers and mediums.
That's
like they
exactly
used to
it.
do
Yeah.
back in the day, yeah.
Mhm.
That's that sorcery, man.
Yeah. Like whatever it say and shit. You know,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's the magicians that they
Yeah.
go to.
Mhm.
You know.
I misquoted that, I think. Oh yes, 500 billion private sector investments into the AI infrastructure, man.
500 billion.
Yeah, I was saying 500 million. I'm like, nah, these niggas going balls to the wall.
Yeah.
500 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, these different, prolific figures within the technological world
Mhm.
that's literally standing right there with Pharaoh. Elon Musk standing, right there with Pharaoh.
Yeah,
You know, it kind of reminds me of Janus and Jambres,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the two magicians that stood next to Pharaoh back in the days of Moses, and they was able to perform their miracles. And it says in the Revelation, the 13th chapter, through their miracles and through their wonders, 2 Thessalonians 2,
Yeah.
Yep.
they deceived the earth and caused the whole world to wonder after the beast.
That's right.
You know, so through those miracles.
Like Revelation 13, yo.
Mm-hmm. So that Isaiah 19 is hitting home on that right there.
Yeah.
It says that they were going to lean toward their idols and such, and there's different divinations and workings and miracles
Portals
that are
being
tied with
opened
that.
up.
Portals being open.
Sir.
Exactly.
Yup.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's happening right now as we speak. We see that. Right before Pope died, shit, in December, that nigga opened up doors in the Vatican for portals.
Mm.
That nigga did that shit, bro. Before that nigga died, I'm pretty sure y'all saw the articles and posts of how he was being attacked by demons before he died.
Mm.
You know, he was screaming out. He was screaming out, they're trying to get me right before he gave it the ghost.
Mm.
The Pope said, y'all ain't see that? Lord, when I posted on the chat later on, I thought brother saw it.
Yeah, Baba Kushal.
Yeah, kind. Yeah, some of y'all that are listening, I know somebody's seen it. You know, but just going back into that, the idols that they're leaning towards, that's in Revelation the 13th chapter.
Yep.
They would cause the world to wonder after the beast. Just like in Isaiah the 19th chapter, they was going to seek and go to their idols and such.
That's
You
right.
see that taking place right now.
That's right.
That's like the last little wave that they're trying to go before the Lord brings their demise and their end. And
That's
Esau's not strong anyway, so it makes sense why he's creating robots and cyborgs and AI, because they know something's getting ready to come. So they're using that right there, utilizing that and promoting that to be the next wave of their glory. They're tying that with making America great again and changing the world. Their technology, their AI. And the Lord is getting ready to frustrate that, just as you said earlier. He frustrated the devices of the crafty, as you read that in Job.
Yep.
Because America's really behind when you compare to China, for example.
Oh yeah.
That's why some people had a talking point that China's going to be the next world superpower. Well, we know according to prophecy that America is Babylon the Great.
Yeah.
That's the final empire where the Israelites will be awaken from the dead state and prophesying that the
Yeah.
end will come.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know?
Yeah, for them, you know, usually like those hundreds of billions usually go for war. Even though AI is gonna be a war on what? The working class. You know, AI is gonna be on the working class. You know,
That's right.
you know. So that's gonna be war within itself. Why? Because that whole AI infrastructure is creating what 100,000 new jobs. But with those 100,000 new jobs, think of how many more major cuts are going to come because those AI robots they have can do up to 1,000 tasks. The regular human can't, you know what I'm saying, can't do, you know, Jake can only do so much, man. And they know they're working people to death, so they're like, hey, why not just do something that we could just control from a board, you know, from a control room.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But you know what's crazy too? They're even coming out and saying like we don't really know we don't really know the extent of what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
They really can't control it. They like
No, they
the
can't.
AI is really those I forget what they call them, but those quantum
Computers.
yeah they like they're on a whole another level that Esau can't even comprehend. Like what is this? We don't even know what this is.
Well,
They're just doing it, but it's the spirit of the
Yeah.
Lord that's upon it. You got it.
Salaki, brother.
Yeah.
Salaki. Just to add, well, now it's so out of their power, out of their grasp. You know, the shit's talking to each other now. You can
Yeah.
get two different sources of AI, and that shit can talk back and forth to each other to the point where it starts speaking its own language.
Yeah.
It's called Gurgachat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Little, you know, like you could tell it like a binary sound. It reminds me of that Terminator movie. I forgot if it was 2 or 3. You know, when I believe it was 2, when the T-1000 liquid metal Terminator went to call, and you know, it was like he opened his voice up, he opened his mouth up, and it was a noise that went. It might have been
Yeah.
the third. No, it was the third one, because it was the bad bitch, the thick Terminator chick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She opened up her mouth and it gave off a frequency.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that pretty much was Skynet being put within the system.
Mm.
But lo and behold, look, you know, I loosely paraphrasing, I say all that to say, you know, when you watch that video of AI talking to each other in that Gurgachat, I believe it's called Gurgachat, if I'm not mistaken, it sounds just like that. You know?
Man.
Like it's very complex, but again, you know, the human didn't know what it was saying. It was talking to itself in a language that even man didn't even perceive.
Yeah.
You know?
Crazy.
And that's what the Lord has set in play.
Yep.
Which goes to show you too, man, like Satan has power over that.
That's right.
You know? Any
I got a
points?
precept.
God.
Were you still invited?
I know.
Okay.
I
just-
was
this,
just Burger Shack.
this is
I think it's garbage.
Lamentations chapter 4 verse 21. It says, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked." And that's what's happening right now. That cup of oppression, captivity, you know, just pretty much hell is
Yeah.
being removed from off of our people, and it's being put on Esau. That's why they're complaining right now. All right.
Right.
Just a little bit of uncomfort, they're just losing their damn mind, man.
Yep.
It says, "The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of
There
Edom.
you go.
Mm.
He will discover thy
There
sins."
you go.
And that's what's happening too. Like it says in Isaiah 47, the leg is being made bare. Okay, the skirt is being lifted up. Okay, so that's what has to happen. That humiliation campaign before Esau ultimately goes down. You know.
Shameful spewing, as you said earlier.
Yep.
You know, that's what that represents too. That leg being lifted up, that's part of that shameful spewing. Everything that you didn't see before, all the secret parts are being revealed. And it's not even just being revealed, but that everybody sees it. The nations are seeing it.
Yep.
Which again, why now you have nations within the European Union that are getting ready to sever ties with America or Babylon.
America's being
You know?
isolated.
That's right.
Their only ally is those, you know who's
Mhm.
in the land that's committing identity theft. You know.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And the other heathen nations, they don't like them either.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ain't feeling them.
Because they know what's up too, man. Even some of them are come out speaking, saying we know who the Lord's real people are. You know, this, that, and the third. You know.
It makes me think of when you read that, like you said at the end, the shame, the guilty acts they didn't done. It makes me think of Michael 2. They lay in the beds and think of all this bullshit to do, and then they basically bring it forth when they get the light.
That's a good scripture.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
That's all. That was
Safe,
safe.
man.
Yeah.
It got too hot.
Nah, yeah, I know, right? So I give you a phone call and stuff like that. It does that shit. You know.
Don't call the brother while we're doing the lesson.
Yeah, man, probably a bill collector or some shit. But I got a verse right here. Just pull it up. Just going into what we're talking about. This is the book of, and this is ultimately what's leading to the nations severing themselves, you know, from the whore. You know, it's ultimately due to the pride that's being pushed here in Babylon. You know, that God complex effect that you see, and Donald J. Trump is heavily pushing that energy. You know, but this is in Daniel chapter 7, and I'm gonna jump straight to it here. I just had it held so I can. Yeah, I got it right here in verse 20. And it says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the others which came up, and before the 3 fell, then of the horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And ultimately what this is talking about is America. America was the little horn that came out of the 3 when you read it prior, and those 3 horns represent pretty much Spanish, the French, and the British. And those 3 came out of the 10, which those 10 horns back in the ancient Roman Empire, all right, you know, it's different nations that the Romans were tied to that paid homage to them, the vassal states,
Yeah.
the water. But right here, when you go into this little horn that had eyes and spoke great things, that here is talking about America right now. All right, and you have Donald J. Trump, who is the king of Babylon, the head of America. He's embodying that pride that you see right now. All right, and that pride is ultimately going to lead to those nations coming up against the whore, as it was said earlier. All right, these tariffs that's taking place, this squeeze, it ain't only just happening in America, but the squeeze is happening everywhere right now. Things are tied all over the place, you know? I just want to bring that verse out real quick, though, because what brother said, you know? Anybody got anything else?
Y'all just read this real quick because he quoted it. This is Micah 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And that's this group of people that we're talking about. Our message is mainly aimed at the elites of Esau Edom.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Because they're causing all of this madness. All right? And it's in the power of their hand. Like it says, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked.
There you go.
All right? I'll read this here. It says, that, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage.
So yeah, and that means like in these coming days, ain't nobody property gonna be safe.
That's
like we
it,
were
y'all.
saying
Point.
earlier.
Yeah. Point.
People got these guns, they know it's gonna happen. So it's gonna be an all-out war when you come.
That's right. That's right.
What evil's gonna be to those men who make these evil plans, man? The Lord already told you, man. He gonna fucking put you to shame. He gonna lift your fucking skirt up.
That's right.
Y'all about to be judged, like the Lord said. I sit. He said in Job 3, I sit to be a judge. He said, gonna sit in the area to judge your ass, bro.
That was Isaiah 47.
Yeah.
I believe Isaiah 47 pulled.
Yeah, kind
So he gonna pull his skirts up. That was in Isaiah 47.
That's right.
Hey,
That's right.
Yadakad, was it you that just read that scripture?
Khan.
You mind reading that again?
Khan, this is Micah 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand.
The precept to that is in Psalms. Number hiding from the secret
Yeah,
counsel,
64.
from the incredulity of the workers of iniquity. You know, that same secret,
Yup,
like they're
yup.
doing all that wickedness, but the majority of the people on the earth don't see it. What
Right.
we see,
That's right.
like Elder Yadakad said, we talking to the elites of Esau because we're the elites of Israel.
Right.
And you gotta believe that.
That's right, Apostle.
And also too, that scripture, right? Like they rise, like these devils are up. When we sleeping, they up putting curses on us,
Oh, yeah.
trying to put incantations on us. I'm talking about the elites,
Mm-hmm.
Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and the other families that are these elite families. And you know what? The elite families of the other nations too. The other nations got elites too, man. That's in cahoots with Esau to destroy Israel. Read some more on that, Yadakad. There was some more meat that I wanted to pull out of that. There's a little bit more meat on that bone.
All right. It says, Micah 2:1, woe to them that devise iniquity.
Destruction to them, which we already know that's going to happen. Job 20:4,
Right.
Isaiah 14:1, right? What the heck?
And work evil upon their beds.
Y'all broke it down already. Y'all done already broke it down, everything Esau is doing. We talking about now, but then let's talk about what he has. Like,
Right.
You can't forget that either.
Yeah.
What he has already done.
Right.
The damage that they have already done to the nation of Israel. Now, we know the 2/3 fuck them. Really? Like, the Lord allowed that. You know? But you still getting mad, though. You still do, even though we supposed to know better, but you can't help but still just...
Daniel 7:25.
Come on. You know, like the 2/3, bro. Like, you see these mother effers, man, and we know they're Israelites, we know that, but
Right.
like, you know, I've been programmed to fuck the 2/3, but you still have moments where you still get mad when you look on fuck the internet, the YouTube, out here in how y'all say, real time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You see, like, okay, like, come on, man. Y'all know you see Big Shirley, you see Pookie, Ray Ray, and all of them, right? These motherfuckers, right? And you see how gone they are.
Right.
That's all Esau. And that's that scripture that Elder Yadakah is reading right now.
Yeah.
As you were reading that was Esau did a perfect job at being the devil. He really did a number on Israel, bro.
Yo.
This motherfucking devil, he deserved the Academy Award of Devils. He did a perfect job in destroying Jacob. And that's when we go back to the other scripture. There's so many precepts, but I'm just going to quote it. The accuser of thine brethren.
Yeah, right.
The reason he did all that because this devil is so deranged in his mind. He said, "This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get these niggas. We empower so they could do it. It was in their power to do it.
Yep.
We're gonna get Jake to go the fuck way off. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him.
I got
Come on, Elder.
Nah,
Come on.
now I just had a precept to back up what we just
Good.
read. They work evil upon their beds.
Mm-hmm.
This is a precept. This is Proverbs 4:16. It says, "For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall."
That's the elites.
Yep.
Hey man, think about it. Going back to when all of us in this room were fucking kids. The idiot box, TV, or movies, whatever, cartoons, any little thing that we had access to. You know what I mean? On TV, and it's still to this day. Whatever, like, I'm just gonna pick one out the hat. Whataburger, they say, right? Whataburger, I don't remember Whataburger. I don't know about Whataburger until I came out west, right? But back east, I don't know about too many Whataburgers back east. But even down in Florida, I've never heard of Whataburger until I came to Texas. You know what I mean?
Whataburger.
I'm just using them as an example. But it could be anywhere. You got Arby's, you got Royal, whatever, man. The bacon, right? Like that shit is witchcraft coming off the screens, man.
Yeah.
Cause I for real, man, cause even like, was it yesterday or early, you be looking at shit, it's a demon, and the demon almost try to get on you, man. You be looking, try the new the cheese be looking so melted on the burgers, put double cheese, bacon, double with the mushrooms.
Right.
Onions all over.
Shit make you hungry.
Yeah, make it like, damn.
Salivate, yeah.
And it'd be cheese on the TV. It'd be glue and shit. When it's
Yeah.
separated from the patty, it's glue
Yeah.
and make it stretch like that.
Yeah.
That'd be real cheese.
Yeah,
But the demon, the fucking demon,
Hey, I'll probably do
actually kind of
Make you
looking.
yeah.
It makes you, you're like, damn, man.
And it's crazy because
Whataburger right down the street, yeah.
I'm gonna work out tomorrow anyway, man.
Yeah, right. Facts.
Maybe I just go sneak one of them.
Then
But I don't do it. I don't get into the. I said, man, fuck you.
Right.
Then you ride by, and then they got the color schemes, the
Yeah.
red and the yellow.
Yeah.
That's like a color scheme to draw you in. Cause you ever notice every restaurant is red and yellow.
Yeah,
Popeyes, Burger King, McDonald's,
all of it.
Pizza Plate, they all red and
what's the-
red, orange, and yellow.
And what's the
Chicken
color
breast.
of the police sirens?
Yep.
Red and
Red and white,
blue and red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in different states, it'll be yellow. Yellow is in there. Those colors are spiritual.
Yeah.
But Mike, you had a class, like it.
Uh-huh.
Is there more in that scripture? You precept.
Yeah, I can get the next verse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read the next verse for you. Micah 2:2, it says, "And they covet fields and take them by violence."
That's what Esau did. We already know, okay, they stole this land from us, the northern kingdom, right?
Yep.
But they also did the same thing to the southern kingdom well, really, see, you gotta realize something, man. The southern kingdom, y'all was over there, y'all had land. Esau's the devil. He was down with it. But see, this is where it gets tricky. right? They blamed the white man for the white man went over. He went to Africa and put you in slavery. No, he didn't. He was a part of the deal.
Right.
See, we can't let them other nations off the fucking
Exactly.
hook.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Them Hamites,
Mm-hmm.
they did it.
Right.
Them Hamites, they were in cahoots with Esau.
Psalm
The
33.
Hamites, it was them Hamites. Jake had land over there, man.
Yep.
At that time, there was Babylon and Timbuktu, that book, y'all know about that,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Remember Fort Judah, like the Southern Kingdom, they had
Right on that
land.
map.
Yeah, we got the map right here, Apostle.
Look at that. They had land. They had Jake had shit going on over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jake, the Southern Kingdom, had certain treaties with them Hamites. Y'all had treaties with them, and okay, with the hunt. Because remember, you had to hunt for food over there too.
Right.
But them Hamites, they said, fuck that. And Esau came over there, them Edomites. So the Hamites made a deal with Esau and Ishmael. Don't forget about
A
Ishmael.
quick one for you afterward.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say.
And they said-
afterward.
You know what? It's like the other nations, and Jake is finding out now that, well, hey, our boy Bishop Nathaniel found out.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
Quick.
He found out, right? He found out, right? Them Hamites don't like you. They don't want you in their country.
They've been doing it's been more videos of them Hamites too on social media. They've been very boisterous and about that. Like, no, we don't like American blacks.
Yeah.
You are not my brother. I'm not your brother, or you are not my sister. And it's been the women. It's been the women.
See, this is the thing. See, my mind goes. I can remember what life was like before social media.
Con.
You see, I remember what life was like before social fucking media.
That's right.
Them Hamites been telling Jake,
Yeah,
we don't
that's
like
right.
you.
All right.
That's
In
right.
their face.
Yep.
In their face.
Yeah.
When I was back east, back years ago, and come on, man, them Hamites back in Harlem, and they were the nigga, Dakota, you nigga.
Yep.
Remember Sugar Hill with Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
Right? You Dakota, we do, and that's in wickedness.
Yep.
Even the Hamite drug dealers don't want to deal with nigga drug dealers.
Oh, man.
No, you Dakota. And Wesley and my man from Five Heartbeats.
Yeah.
What you mean? American cotton picker. Yeah, and Wesley and his brother.
They beat the shit out the
they
niggas.
fucked them up. Right? They beat their ass. They beat the Hamites' ass, right?
Yeah.
But that's been going on. Now,
Yeah.
I was watching, y'all know I watch YouTube every day. I'm gonna let y'all get back in them precepts. The black woman, see, the black woman is a whole nother beast. But they're starting to fight. The Lord is starting to bring judgment on them.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Them red pill niggas, the Lord got that. Them red pill niggas, what they doing, that Lord got them set up to do
Yep.
it.
And your boy Anton even said it the other day on the show.
Yeah.
He said the black woman is the black man's enemy. He said that.
Yeah, we know that. But
Yep.
the Lord is starting to bring judgment on them.
That's right.
Because what they're trying to do, this coincides with the whole going to the other countries, amongst these other, not just the Hamites, all these other heathens. These other nations do not like the black man, and they damn sure do not like the black woman.
That's right.
See, the black woman, she's so caught up in the world of delusion here in America, because Esau is doing this shit on purpose, because he wants more, what's the old, speaking of the elites, the Illuminati, they did everything they did. That's what, see, it all ties in. That did.
Right.
It all ties in, going right back to Micah.
Yeah.
Esau did all this confusion, but realistically, he really made the black woman believe that he really is down for her cause. He rose her up over the black man, right? He did it, period, to women, right? But the black woman is a dangerous weapon.
Just as the serpent with Eve back in the ancient
Oh,
world,
yeah,
the
that's
Gardenian pact.
That's the Gardenian
Yeah.
pact.
Yeah.
The black woman is more dangerous than any gun,
Right. Yeah.
any missile that you can have. She has caused she has caused irreparable damage.
She's been a weapon of mass destruction.
Of mass
Weaponized.
destruction.
Yep.
You understand? So
Right.
Yeah.
basically, these black women, because in America they're so entitled, black queen, they could talk shit, they could act out, and then these regular Edomite or whatever, the cops of America, they've been told from the top. I mean, when the black women act up, they still gotta arrest them or whatever. They gotta do what they gotta do. When they get too crazy, they gotta arrest them or whatever. But the cops gotta be all calm with them. I'm like, man, I couldn't be a cop.
Right.
'Cause I would have lost my badge a long time ago. Because I would have beat these, I'll fuck these niggas up. It's like, as soon as the motherfucker, when I ask for your license, you know, taser, you want me to tase you?
Damn.
My taser's gonna already be out. And I'm gonna have my other hand gonna be on my sidearm. Like, I'm gonna be on some rough shit. As soon as I ask for your ID, I'm only gonna ask once. And as soon as you say, I gotta show you my ID, I'm snatching you out the car.
Yeah.
I'll make fucking Alonzo from Training Day look like, I'll make him look like a fucking nice guy.
Just got a quick one, real quick, 'cause I know
Read that. Yeah, I know, brother, y'all gotta get out of here.
For sure.
I just wanted y'all to kind of finish up that.
Okay.
For sure. No, bro, read your precept. Y'all you finish up and then we out of here.
Come. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:10, because you made a point earlier, Apostle, going into Satan is pretty much how he's doubling down. And you didn't say that word, so to speak.
No,
but you said he's going in and he's being perfect right now at his wickedness. So this is 2 Thessalonians 2:10. And really I'm going to start at 9. It says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power. All right? It don't just say some, neither. It says all power and signs and lying wonders.
All power, Kyle.
I know, right?
Yes. That go back to Superman.
Superman.
Gone. And his power on the left side, and again, it's the Lord that allowed them to actually tap into that. You know, when you go into this word working, whose coming is after the working of Satan. When you bring this word working out in the Greek, the word is pronounced energia, or energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty much saying he who's coming, which is Esau, whose coming is pretty much with the energy of Satan through power, signs, lying wonders. And part of that was how they was able to beguile the black woman as he was going into. And just even Jake in general, how they caused the world to wonder after what they have set before in front of us. Verse 10 says, and with all deceivableness. And that was the point, because he's not coming in a regular way. He's coming with all deceivableness. And if you don't got the spirit on you, you're going to be under control, all right? And pretty much found out. There's a word that I want to look for. It's a lot.
Alphabet shit.
The water.
Feminism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All that bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yep. You're going to fight.
Kicking the Israelite man out the house.
Right.
That caused a lot. That was like a tidal wave, man.
That's right. And if you don't have the spirit of the Lord on you, you were going to succumb to that snare. That's what I was looking for in Satan. But you were going to succumb to that snare, what you see taking place with the Israelites.
That's right.
All right. It says, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. And who are them that perish? Everybody you see out here, if you got the spirit of the Lord on you, especially the 2/3, you know, they're set up to perish. The so-called black woman, as you was talking about, Pookie, Ray Ray, you know, Hector, Javier, them too.
All the tribes.
You know, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
It says, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. So that's ultimately why they fall into this snare, because they don't have the ability to receive the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
But Esau,
You know?
he's so much of the devil, his own demonic shit is affecting his people.
Right. Facts.
These Edomites, they suffering too, man. The Edomite woman, let me say this about it. Okay, you know, look, man, we talk about the white woman, get a white woman. And you can, in my opinion, that's a better option than dealing with the black woman, but certain little things, but other than that, these white women are out of order too.
They fucked up too.
Yeah.
They're coming like Esau had. They got Esau on child support, alimony. I know about Edomites, they're paying child support and alimony. And alimony is wicked as hell.
Well, they were part of the ploy for the black one to be cast
Yeah.
down. Feminism, first wave feminism and all of that. It was Edomite women that started that shit and got the black women involved with it.
I don't remember exactly what that scripture is. We don't know how to get it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Or it's in the law. I know it's probably in Exodus. It got to be in Exodus or Leviticus. When it says if a woman, the law of divorce, the bill of divorce, the law of divorce. Never. Now y'all know Moses set it up because the Most High put the spirit on Moses to do that because he knew niggas was going to be wicked anyway.
Right.
He already knew Jacob would do what they want to do anyway.
How Shah said that in Matthew 19.
But technically, there was not supposed to ever be
Right.
a woman is supposed to stay with you, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, but no, the Most High had Moses actually put it in the law, really as a stumbling block for niggas, right?
Come.
But he said, yeah. And in that law, if your woman leave you, she leaves with nothing. Y'all know, we got it later on, you know, another time, you know, we'll go back and read it.
Come.
It's in the scriptures. So if she shall leave with nothing.
Right, yep.
No alimony, but no, first of all, there was no child support because the kids were staying with you.
Yeah, solid point. Yeah.
You were keeping your kids.
Yep.
Back in them days, that's when Israel was set up.
Yo, for
Your
sure.
bitch, you ain't I'm leaving and taking the kid. What?
Yeah.
Well, your head gonna be rolling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt.
Because remember, back then, Jake had substance.
Oh yeah.
You had some land, you had some apple trees, or orange, or whatever you
Sure, they're gonna
had.
be working for you.
Come on. But if she left, she left.
Yup.
She wasn't taking your kids.
Nah.
Your
Same way
kids.
you come in, the same way you come out.
Oh, come on, brother. Back in them days, especially your son,
Yo.
let that be back in the ancient when you went. I'm taking little Harag or whatever, your son.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, you that bitch, you about to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what that did, Apostle? That law incentivized the woman to stay and be in order and follow the structure that the Heavenly Father already ordained.
Right.
Now I got some news for you, brothers. The women who did say, "Well, I'm just gonna leave," that's where you got your harlots from.
Yup.
Those women that were harlots back in the ancient world, like the type of women that Samson dealt with,
Yeah,
those were women that their husband gave them a bill of divorce,
absolutely.
and they left. They were cast out. They had to still eat. They had to make a living.
Right, absolutely. And
Right.
that was a custom that was even held, like not even no more so a custom, but that was even practiced in the 1700s, 1800s, even the early American days.
Come.
If a woman separated from her husband, a lot of times she became a harlot to take care of herself.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
what
to
else
add
was
to
she
the
gonna
point.
do, bro?
Exactly.
What else was she gonna do? They couldn't go out on the frontier by themselves. They couldn't come out here on this. This is the frontier.
Right.
Come out here. Either Gad was gonna snatch their ass up, and there was gonna be somebody's bed wench
Yep.
in
Yeah.
a teepee somewhere,
Solid points.
or some Mexican banditos was gonna get them. They were gonna be either harlots or maybe the bed wench or some Gadite.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So they went to the towns and became harlots. They had to feed themselves.
Right.
Yep. The Great Depression humbled a lot of women too.
Yeah.
A lot of women clung on to men because the times is hard and it's coming back around. As you can see, that's all women talk about on online, bro.
That's right.
And that's good with that Micah.
Yeah, spirit,
you pretty much made the
Yep.
point. Pretty much came through.
Oh yup.
For what? I know when you read it the first time, I was like,
Yeah.
yo, I wanted to pull a little bit more
That
meat out
that
there.
law you talking about was Exodus 21.
Oh,
Yeah, where it says if you take another wife, her food, her raiment, her duties of marriage, shall he not diminish? And if he do not these three of her, then she shall be free without money.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
So
free without money.
free without money.
Oh, the water, brother. The water. You brought that. That's in the law. So alimony, we know child support is wicked because number one, your kids are supposed to stay. That's your property.
Yup.
Not to be graphic, but that's your property. She
That's
was
your
just an
seed.
incubator.
Yeah.
Hey, like if you can find some fertile ground and you plant a fucking, you get some apple seeds or whatever on, and you plant you a little, I'm gonna plant me a little apple tree, right? And when the tree grows and the apples come out, those are your fucking apples. The earth ain't gonna come and go, wait a minute.
Exactly.
Right.
You gotta pay child support to the earth,
Yeah, solid. Yeah,
to
exactly.
the ground. Fuck out of here,
Solid
man.
point.
Well, Esau and rule. You got property taxes.
Yeah, he's the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's why it was quoted earlier in Psalms 82:5. With him in power, all the foundations of the earth are out of course. Everything.
That's right.
Everything that's supposed to be natural is unnatural under the rule and guise of Esau, Edom.
Yeah.
Under his power, which is why he got to be out of the picture.
Yeah.
You know.
No earth no earth
Land
Sabbath.
Sabbath.
Yeah, land so like no land Sabbath. You know,
That's
just
Hey, Shaw, I said this real quick,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir.
It wasn't last week, the week before. It might have been the week before, the Saturday before, or last Saturday. We were anointing, sending up prayers, and you were sending up the prayer. We anointed brothers, and then we put up the blessings and the curses, and you had sent up the curse. You had put on fucking sodomites, all sodomites, and then you got. But you got specific with it. You said all sodomites, even them down low motherfuckers. Those are the ones that I hate the worst. Those are the ones that see like the outright moles. You know that's a mole.
Right,
And
right.
they'll tell you, yeah, I'm a mole.
yeah.
Little Mo.
Or say little mo.
They'll tell you. See, I respect them more. The outright ones.
Right,
The
of course.
flamboyant ones,
Yeah.
they'll tell you they're a mole.
They ain't at least hide. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I'm gay.
You can avoid the motherfucker. Yeah.
Right? They'll tell you they're gay, but the ones I hate is the fucking down
Yeah,
low.
yeah.
But in the prayer, the Spirit got on you to cover them. Motherfuckers that act like they regular Jake or regular
Right,
dudes,
right.
sit there talking to you, and you could be sitting there having a drink.
Exactly.
Like, that's why I don't talk to nobody no more.
Facts.
If I do go to a bar and have a drink, I'm nervous to talk to Jake, man.
Few words.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, you know, 'cause like
You don't
we're
know.
friendly guys, man.
Exactly.
We're friendly.
Right.
You might meet a Jake. Let's say, you know, you decide to go get you a drink at the bar, and the game is on, whatever. Or we talking about boxing, whatever. And then, you know, a Jake is sitting there, you talking, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're friendly, you know, we're likable, friendly dudes.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, you might be talking about the game. Yeah, man, the Cowboys, what they doing, man? Yeah, brother, yeah. There was a time when you could sit and have a drink with a Jake and you didn't have to worry about
Right.
whether this motherfucker trying to fill you out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Babylon 2025.
Yeah, man, like, but this nigga, but no, you don't, and you're not even getting no mo vibes from him. You just thinking this motherfucker's a cool ass Jake.
Full beard, yeah.
Yeah, he might have a beard, sitting there, he might gonna buy you a shot. Yo, brother, yo, what you drink?
Yeah.
He might gonna buy you a shot.
That's the red flag right there.
Right there.
No, but see,
man.
but you know what? No, there was a
I
time.
don't drink shots.
There was a time years ago when you could do that. I brought like
Yeah,
years ago. It
for
was
sure.
different.
Understood.
But now you gotta be nervous, man.
Right.
Yo, man, what you drinking, brother?
Mhm.
What you drink? What you drinking? Henny? What? You want a shot?
I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure
You
you
gotta
out.
be careful, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cause the motherfucker, like, I had to learn that shit, man.
Yeah.
This motherfucker,
Motherfucker, try it.
like, this motherfucker trying, like, no, he ain't gonna try to do nothing stupid, but he trying to
Engage it. Yeah.
engage and
Yeah.
fill you out.
Trying to spirit.
Yeah, he trying to try the spirit. He trying to see like, yo, like so y'all sit there drinking like, yo, brother. So where you going? What you going
Ah,
to do?
man.
Like,
yeah.
what motherfucker?
Right.
Like he done brought you 4 shots. So, he feeling entitled. You know what I mean? Then you gotta end up beating this motherfucker ass or
Exactly.
something.
Exactly.
But that's it. That's all I just wanted to see. But Esau. But I'm glad you put that curse up, man.
Gone.
That was a beautiful curse.
Hey, call what y'all about
I
to
hate
get
that.
shot.
And some of them motherfuckers that have a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They'll have a woman and
So-called
kids.
married,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, what type of reprobate base demon is that?
Well, after you threw that prayer of apostle, look what happened to Alice.
Oh, man.
That's why I threw it up, because you know the spirit is on brothers to be more specific with it. So you know.
God.
He
So,
wild.
yeah, I heard you do it that way, and that's why I did
Okay,
it that
God.
way.
Hey, man, rock the hell about you.
Yeah, rock
Yeah.
Right. So Alizar fell a few days right after the next day.
And that shit is scary because, you know, we out here dealing with these women. You know, we men, you know, we ain't on that more shit, but then we dealing with women that have dealt with niggas
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
So you be scared, like, damn, I ain't trying to catch nothing.
Fuck around and got AIDS, HIV, or
Yeah,
some
kid,
shit.
no, but you gotta say it like the AIDS. You a
Yeah.
Jake.
The AIDS.
You can't say AIDS, you a Jake. The
The
AIDS.
AIDS.
Yeah, that's the way Jake said, bro.
I ain't.
You know, Jake got a, you know,
Damn.
the AIDS.
I was saying AIDS my whole life. God, the water.
You ain't Jake.
I'm from the suburbs.
You got the AIDS. You got the AIDS.
But die slowlies.
Shit.
Yeah, y'all got it there. Slide.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, that's a spirit. You know, you came in, you know what I'm saying? You preach,
The
you know.
AIDS.
God, but we
You
gonna
don't say drugs, them drugs. Especially if you from the South.
Yeah, I'm from the north.
Yeah. She on them drugs and stuff.
Yeah, we say AIDS
Them
from the
drugs.
Midwest. God. So anybody got any closing points, precepts? God, okay, cool. That's a bet. We can end it off on that. Lord, when this was edifying, we again want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to
Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakapadash.
double honors to our apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that rule well through the Holy Spirit. And peace and blessing and salutations to you elect who are scattered throughout the 4 winds of this earth, fulfilling your lots in all truth and all sincerity. Shalom.
I was about to call Akim.
God, that's right.
Yeah, y'all, guys. He